Speaking of USC football players, you play a role in the Hood Classic. Now, it's a Mount Rushmore in the hood. Boys in the Hood, Friday, maybe House Party. I don't know the other guy, but I know those three is going to be on everybody's Mount Rushmore. When I mentioned Boys in the Hood and Ricky, your first feature role, what goes through your mind?
Oh man, you know, it's first, honestly, now, you know, John Singleton is, you know, rest his soul. I mean, he gave me an opportunity. So it's sad in that regard, but I always go back to, you know, just when I was just starting out. I was just starting out, and I just wanted to be involved in a project that people would see, and people would see me and recognize me for. And he gave me an opportunity. And you know, the one thing I just love, you know, about being involved in that project. I mean, you know, to this day, Nia, Fishburne, Regina, Cuba, you know, everybody is still, Angela, everybody's still going. And it was a special project. Obviously, it's my first big screen, first real movie, actually. And it's something I'm always gonna hold dear.
How did you land the role?
Yeah, so I just got an agent, and actually it was a little bit of I got a little bit lucky for the role, of course.
Okay.
But here's where the luck is. So when I was coming up as an actor, I started, not after I graduated from high school, I started acting, and I was taking acting classes at this junior college in Long Beach City Junior College, and I said, okay, so I was getting some pretty good feedback. So I said, you know what, I want to go to Hollywood and take an acting class there and see what people think. Now, at that time, Marla Gibbs, who was on The Jeffersons, 227, 227, she had an acting studio right in Leimert Park. It was right in the hood. And so I said, but her acting studio, the people from The Jeffersons and 227, they would come teach in the class. So I said, I want to get in front of the people who
actually do it.
Exactly. And so I went there. And so cut to, my agent gives me the information to go to this audition for this movie, Boyz n the Hood. I get excited, I go meet the casting director, Jackie Brown. Get the call back, it's John Singleton's in the call back. So I'm like, oh man, this cat, he's my age. And I got this young cat. And so that was a little bit easier then. But then after the second meeting, when I met John, my agent calls me like, listen, you have a screen test. And I'm like, oh, so back then, Hollywood screen test, you go down to the studio, they have all the cameras and all the crew and everything just for a screen test. So I'm like, man, this is my first big Hollywood screen test. So I'm getting all excited. I had a pager back then, and I was excited and stuff. And so I said, okay, so where is it? And I'm thinking he's gonna say Columbia, Warner Brothers, somewhere like that. But he says it's at Crossroads Academy, Leimert Park. I'm like, Leimert Park, that's the acting school. That's what the screen test is? And he's like, yeah, that's what it is. And so, you know, John wanted to keep everything in South Central. But where that played into my favor is because when I had to go for the screen test, I was already in a comfortable environment. I had already been to school. I was already comfortable there. And so that played into me getting the part.
Did you know it would turn out to be what it is? And here we are 30 years later and people are still talking about that movie. I'm sure that's one of the first things when people meet you, that's one of the first things they talk about. Man, I remember you in the Boy in the Hood, boy, you were great.
Yeah, you know what? It's two things. So it's one of the movies that I hear people literally from around the world say they learned English from watching Boyz n the Hood.
Okay.
You know, one movie that they see that. But at the time, I didn't. I was literally on set. I'll never forget, I was absorbing everything. At the time, you know, Cube had an album, you know, Fishburne, he wasn't Fish at the time, you know, he had worked. And Cuba had been in a few holding deals at some studios, but he hadn't been on a show that lasted long. So I'm looking around like, okay, you know, it's a movie, I'm a lead in the movie, nobody knows me. I didn't think the movie was gonna do anything. You know, I thought it would be, you know, I thought we were making a good movie, but there's no way I thought it was gonna be to the magnitude that it turned out to be.
You mentioned the names, Cuba Gooding Jr., Ice Cube, Lawrence Fishburne, Neil Long, Regina King, Angela Bassett.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned earlier, the majority of these are still going strong. Regina, I think Regina has a show on HBO.
She has a show, she has a movie, she directed a movie.
Yes. Won an Oscar.
Won an Oscar. Yeah. We have 3. So Cuba was nominated. Fishburne was nominated. I think Angela won, and Regina won.
Right. So you got So what's up? I mean, what's up, bro? I mean,
you know what, man? It was one of those things. Exactly. It was one of those things. I did go through a point where I was like, man, I gotta get right. When we did that movie, I was crazy green. I was someone that was just happy to be on set and, walking around and being around all these experienced actors. And it's one of those things, man. Yeah, they all got nominated. I've never gone for that. I would love to have an opportunity for a role like that to be nominated. But to be honest, I'm just happy to still be here and still be kicking,
You think about your first role and it's a movie like that. Now, obviously at the time, you don't know it's going to be a movie like that.
Right.
How does that make you feel now to know that, man, I did that?
I can say I haven't really reflected on it that way.
Okay.
I just, when people, like, when you ask me about the movie, the things that I think about, like, I'll never forget when I think about how green I was, because I've never had a mentor or anybody in this industry. As a matter of fact, talk about an Oscar, I literally, after I did Boyz in the Hood, it was one of the biggest movies, out. I literally went from that to a sitcom. And back then, you didn't do that. Back then, it was you were either in movies or on television show, but that's how much guidance I didn't have. I wish I had somebody. But I think back, this is how green I was. My agent called me. The movie was performing well. I mean, the movie was finished, and he said, "Hey, your movie's gonna go to the Cannes Film Festival." I was like, "Cannes?" I said, "Well, how come they're not gonna release it here?" And that's just how green I was at the time, and not knowing that was, it was a great response over there, and that was a catapult globally for the film. You
mentioned that back then, you did the movie and then you did a sitcom. Do you regret doing the sitcom, or do you wish you had just stuck with movies? Why did you bring that up?
Because when I look back, like I said, I've never really had a mentor in the industry. Like, I had an agent at that time who just wanted me just to do another job. Right. So when I talk about that, obviously, if I had to go back and do things all over again, there's a lot of things I would do differently. But I always like to bring that up because a lot of times people come up to me, especially in LA. I'm at the gym working out or playing ball. "Hey, man, I want to get put on. What I have to do?" And I was like, "All right, man." So I always say, like, at that time, I wish I would have been. I never really. I was in acting classes, but I wasn't really acting. I was just kind of just going for the money. Right. So I wish I would have studied more. And then when my agent pushed me towards that, so I have the experience in the industry to where when people come up to me, I can give them some pretty good guidance because I've been around for a minute.
Right. And so you could give them sound advice that you didn't get when you were coming up.
Without a doubt. And without a doubt. And I always like to go back to those things to tell them, hey, this is what I went through. But, most of the time it falls on deaf ears because a lot of people who come to LA, they kind of they want to get discovered on the street corner, or they want to, they want to just go to the party and, get discovered at a party. And it doesn't work like that.
That's only in the movies that they're not going to be in.
Exactly.
You know what to do. Hit the subscribe button to become an official member of Club Shay Shay, where we always do something for two something.